Hey, it's Lisa. I figure I would do a screencast where I can show you how I maneuver on the website instead of just trying to tell you. Sometimes it's hard to understand when you're typing what I mean by upper left corner, click on blue button, and all that. So I can just show you. The first thing you mentioned was trying to find one of the work mats. I haven't found it really difficult to find the resources in My Math too bad, but just so you know, the work mats, you would go under your resources. So you can go under the menu here. I tend to stay in this area. You can find it in both places. Instead of being on chapter 1, lesson 7, where I am on, I can just click on program resources and updates, and here you have all your resources. So the work mats are right there. Now, if you go in it the way that I did, you have to click over here on this green section for lesson resources that finally take you there. But if you went in the regular menu resources, they would all just show up together. So you can see these are the different work mats that we have right now, the 1 through 8. I don't use the work mats as much, but you definitely can. Also, I'll let you know, I don't use the teacher's edition, the paper one, as much because all the resources are together online, especially with the presentation tool. So in case you're not doing that, let me give you a little rundown of how I teach my lessons. So I love the presentation tool. With the projector, it's how I do all of my lessons instead of using the book. So I was on chapter 1, we did lesson 7 today. So the presentation has been great. I never customize it. I just use the regular one. Second for it to go through. It's a great way to be able to show your essential question. And then the problem of the day. I hate having to write that all on the board, so I love having this all available. And then if you didn't know that you can also write on it, you can have the extra tools that are popping up. The virtual manipulatives you can use that are right on there. I don't use these ones as much, but I do like to be able to use the writing tool. So in your upper right-hand corner, you have over here, I use that a lot. So when I'm writing about 4 plus 5, I can stay at my computer. Sometimes I'll just write on the whiteboard, but it doesn't give you wonderful handwriting, but you can write, 4 plus 9 will give me a sum that's greater than 4 plus 5. So that's what I do with all of my lessons. The students have whiteboards at their desk and they show me how they do through all of these. The only thing also, if you're not using them, answers there, is let's see if I can find one where there are 2 slides in one. This is just one slide. Oh, these, in case you didn't know as well, whenever you see these manipulatives on the side, you can move them over so that you can drag and drop. So those are great. But if you look down here, it says that this is slide 1 of 3. Sometimes, and then when I first did it, I would just click over here and go on to the next slide, not realizing this slide was actually 3 different slides. So this goes through all the different things that the Teacher's Edition textbook tells you to do. And you can do it all with your students. And it includes, this is, as you know, is the first Explore and Explain for the lesson. So it goes through that, and you can even have the student work pages are a part of it too. So I teach it all the way through. I don't do the student work pages, this next one on my own. This is when I stop the presentation and I have them do those pages on their own. But it's just nice that you have all of this at your fingertips to be able to project. Going back to the main screen, while the presentation is the thing I use the most, there's a lot of other things you can do. As you know, in lesson resources, this has everything you need for this specific lesson. So if you're not sure what worksheets you need to do, instead of going to the reteach section, going to the enrichment section, everything you need that has to do with the lesson you are on is going to be right here. And like you said, with the games, if I click on games here, it's just going to be that flash dash or fact dash, whatever it's called. And I don't find that particularly helpful for my students, so we don't use that very often. But back to home. Along with the lesson, look over here. The assessment tools, I don't know if you've done any online assessment, something our 4th grade teacher does a lot. I haven't used as much with my students, but just for you to remember under assessment, not only, of course, you have all of your regular assessments, and the Smarter Balance is really great for 1st grade and 2nd grade to have that, since we don't actually have Smarter Balance test. This is still the tests are a lot more difficult and is really great to give that extra help along with the 21st century assessments as well. But if you want to do any online testing with your kids, the very first one we have right here is e-assessment. Oh, mine popped up because I looked at it earlier today. You can do your tests online for your kids. I find that a little bit harder for second graders. So again, our fourth grade teacher does a lot here. But if you are to create a new test, it doesn't have to be a regular test. It can be the classwork. It can be the check your progress. It can be all of those things. So if I look under, again, chapter 1, these are all the different things that I can assign for my students. I can assign their check my progress. I can assign their practice, their homework, and then, of course, the test at the end of the time. So that's just another option for something you can do with the students. The other online one that's really great, it wasn't working today, of course, but staying with the lesson that you're on. When I go under my resources for chapter 7, there's the check. This online self-check is really great because it's only about 5 questions and it automatically gives the students an answer. So this isn't something that would like go in their grade book, but if the kids are finished, you can tell them to take the self-check and it'll grade them and it'll show them what's right and wrong. So it's a nice, pretty quick and easy thing for students to be able to do. So a lot of the other things that you can be assigned on here, they have to type in their answers versus being multiple choice, or it doesn't really work as well. So that's one area that works. However, when I clicked on it today, it wasn't loading. Let's see if it loads now. Yeah, so this is the self-check. It shows up on the student page, but if I click on it, this happens. So that's not really awesome, but normally that's a great resource. Hopefully this is just a little quick bug. What else did I want to show you? Sorry, I had to pause there for a second. Now, the other area to find all your information on whatever you're learning is not just the resources that are right here, but you can also go into menu and plan and present, and that should show you way too much information, but as much as you would need to know on the lesson you're on. So again, I'm on lesson 7 right now, so it gives you everything that's in your teacher's edition. The Common Core quick check is something that's really great to do as the end of the day or as extra homework. You know, it's not harder, it's not easier like the enrichment pages and the reteach pages, but it's nice as a little like extra spiral review. So I like having these little quick checks to be able to do every now and then. So like this one's only 2 questions, but you know, with younger students being able to have word problems, you know, those are always something that's a bit more difficult. So it's nice being able to have more resources there. But again, everything you're going to see, all the resources on this right-hand side are just for the lesson that I'm teaching today. So it gives you all this information, including all of the vocabulary that you would need for the lesson, problem of the day, counters, all of those papers, the manipulatives are all right in there. Again, they're also in that presentation, not as many, but I like the presentation tool myself. You can see the video they can watch. That self-check I was telling you about again that I love being able to have. I haven't used the math songs very much. I've used them every once in a while. But it shows you that there's lots of different resources, finally getting into the reteach and the enrichment pages. So it gives you all of those things that you could need. And that's just in one lesson. So if you go to the regular resources tab, this button is going to be what's best if you want to try to find things for the entire year, while Plan and Present's what's going to be best to try to help you find something for today. The one thing that I've noticed so far, it's been frustrating about the series, is it's a little bit harder to find like an enrichment book. You can't just download all 120 enrichments for the entire year. They have each enrichment saved for that lesson. So I definitely had 1 or 2 boring professional developments at SCO where I didn't have anything else better to do, where we went through and saved all of them. So I have a folder on my desktop that has Common Core Quick Check 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. So it would be great if it was just 1, but that's the way it is. All right, my screen check shows me that I need to end my screencast in a couple seconds because this is a free version. But I hope that helps, being able to go to resources, Plan and Present, assessment for both online or paper version. And if you use that presentation tool, that's, I think, really the easiest way to help me along with your lessons. If you have any other questions, feel free to email me or